All right, welcome to the Esoteric Beat. It's been a long time since I've rapped at you, friends. I am here at the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft with my good pal Stephen Intermill. This is my third visit to the museum, and I was so pleased to see how the place has been growing. Stephen, you want to tell us about this new location and how long you've been here?
All right. So should I talk to the camera, or do you think I should talk to you?
You should probably talk to me.
All right. So, Ted, we've been in this location for about 3 years. We started off in a record shop in Cleveland, Ohio. My friend's record shop, A Separate Reality, which, let's face it, was a fantastic name for a record shop for a witchcraft museum to be within. And then we doubled in size, and then somebody bought the building we were in. So the guy kicks out the record shop and he's like, well, you guys could stay. Yeah, I don't think it works that way, friend. I don't think you can mess with the way my pals make their living and expect me to be like, all right, excellent. So we found this location shortly after. We were in the old Brooklyn neighborhood and right by the zoo. So
Across the street from the Tattoo Cafe.
yes, yeah, which isn't a cafe, but you can get a tattoo there.
My concept for this video that I pitched to Stephen was, I'm interested in this place as kind of a resource for esoteric studies, right? But as Stephen rightly points out, his deal is less academic and more inspirational. And one of the things that I really admire about what Stephen does is the way that he models how to do the kind of work that interests me on this show. Esoteric Beat is a pun, right? That first of all puns on the Rush song "Mystic Rhythms," and it's kind of a combination of the idea of like the beat concept, like the Beat Generation, where they felt so beat, right? But also like reporting on a beat, like a reporter covers his beat, just like a cop walking down the street is on his beat, right? And so, I feel like Stephen is one of my brothers on the esoteric beat. Let's just put it that way. So I would love to hear, first of all, your origin story as a curator.
So I used to work for a local tourist destination, and it's a place that sells totemic symbols of the winter solstice in the form of a leg lamp. And I started that gig, and I was just working in the marketing department, and then I noticed the museum could really use some help. So I developed an interest in the preservation of these things here. So it was a Christmas Story house. If you've ever seen that movie, A Christmas Story about Ralphie, the BB gun, all
You'll
that.
shoot your eye out.
Exactly. So I figured out how to actually, really redo the museum there. And then one day I was just like, yeah, I like witchcraft better. So I contacted the founder of the place, Ray Buckland, who a lot of people probably know from the Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book of Witchcraft, the complete book of witchcraft. I contacted him because I knew about his witchcraft collection, and he forwarded my email to a woman named Tony Rotunda, who's my partner in the museum, and we got together and we created this thing, the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. So that's kind of how it happens. You take a cool opportunity and you go with it.
So, what have you learned in this process? I mean, first of all, it's majorly inspirational that you were able to quit your day job as a curator, kind of doing like curating in the square world, let's say. And now you're able to just kind of do it on your own. And, one of the interests of this show is esoteric research kind of outside of the academy, right? Where we're able to kind of let's say, engage more directly with the material, and do you see curation, for example, as a kind of a magical practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Curation is a magical practice. And the one thing is I I don't want like a white wall place where you go and you have the object and it sits there and you just go, oh, there's the object. What I want is a place where the objects are completely around you at all times and everything feels magical. Even the couch we're sitting on. Everything in this museum has a story to it, and even the couch does. A couple of weeks ago, a woman came in here and she goes, "Where'd you get this couch?" I was like, "Down the street. I bought it offer up, right? The app." And she goes, "Was it down there by the cemetery?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Ah, it was my grandma's." And I'm like, "Well, it's a great couch to nap on during the winter months when nobody comes to the museum." But I know I'm kind of going on a sideways story here. But the thing about the things that we have on display here, these are things that were used in magical practices by true practitioners of the arcane arts. So we got a lot of heavy vibes here, and it's not really, it's not like really a research place. We're always working on a library that we hope to one day have it be open, but it's more of a trying to inspire people to lead more magical lives if they don't. And if they do live magical lives, I like to have a place where people can come and just kind of celebrate it. I never answered questions that people ask me. I just go in these roundabout ways, and then I ended up, and I'm like, so that's how I feel.
And yeah, I might be asking a question that is meandering my way towards, my next thought. I'm looking around the shop and just appreciating how you're not only using you're not only showing these artifacts, but we also see, for example, behind us, these are some Fillmore West posters, right? The psychedelic concert hall. And we have an exhibit by a Brazilian artist, and is that right? A Brazilian artist?
Two of them, Darcilio Lima and Luciana Lupe Vasconcelos. Two incredible Brazilian artists.
And that's a really cool, not only exhibit with prints of their work, but also they have a trippy zine that you can buy for $6 that goes more in depth. And then another thing that I see just sitting here is Mediatrix new work by Shannon Taggart, which I understand are mediumistic, like seance photographs.
Yeah, but a couple years ago when we couldn't meet face to face any longer, well, the spiritualists, just like everybody else, turned to Zoom. They started having their seances via Zoom. So we had a couple different alternative names for it. None of them were appropriate, but they were all really fun. My absolute favorite name for this exhibit that we didn't choose because it was too ridiculous was Seance Sans Pants.
Which is what I was doing when I was teaching on Zoom. I'd roll out of bed at 9 in the morning and put on a shirt, but maybe not pants, and teach a class.
And the other name was Drawing Down the Zoom.
Oh, I love it.
That's good, isn't it?
R.I.P. Margot Adler.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one person. If anybody sees this video out there and they're like, yeah, I got something that belonged to Margot Adler that should be on display in this museum, contact me. BucklandMuseum.org.
Oh, boy. Oh, that would be cool. Yeah. I used to enjoy
Really
her NPR broadcast, think about her groundbreaking research.
Yeah, and no matter what she talked about, she seemed like an authority on it. And she seemed like she had an open mind with whatever she was talking about. And then I found out she was a witch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and a Berkeley radical in the 60s. She wrote a book about that, too.
Yeah.
So I'm coming around to the next question that I wanted to ask. You told the story of the synchronicity, right, involving this couch. And, as I came in, I was, my eyes were bugging out at some of the cool new stuff that you got here, like Oberon Zell's staff and an angel by the guy that designed the alien. And you've got lots of cool stories about why people are sending you stuff and how you acquire the items, So, I'm just going to go ahead and break the academic wall here and say, like, what's your take on synchronicity? Like, why is it that people are so interested in these weird, meaningful coincidences that happen in our lives? And do you feel that that's like an important part of how a museum like this comes together?
Well, all right. Well, I'm going to put this in language that you'll understand. The esoteric beat, where you're talking about beatniks and whatnot. What did William S. Burroughs say about coincidences? He said that there are no coincidences in a magical universe. I live in a magical universe. I display a magical universe. So to me, there's no coincidences. Everything syncs up. And the reason why it syncs up is for purpose and reason. And if you're going to live a life like that, I mean, come on.
So, curating is a magical practice in a magical universe.
Yeah.
We were talking about Eric Davis earlier, and Stephen can do a great Eric Davis impersonation, right?
Oh, come on.
I'm not going to force you to do it on camera here. In his book Technosis, he wrote about how the techniques of magic, the kind of like magical imaginary, the tools of the trade, and also like the aspirations of the magician, the like semiotics of correspondences, and the way that as above so below means that we can kind of like read the book of nature. This equips us in a way for the modern world, right? Because like the modern world where we're swimming in a sea of images, all of this like advertising, you kind of like, we're kind of living in a world where the magical semiotic of the magicians, the magical like symbol theory of the magicians is sort of like impossible to avoid. We talk a bit about Philip K. Dick. I quoted at you earlier, the divine is first manifested in the trash stratum. And Dick was really interested in this concept of synchronicity. I wonder if you can speak at all, first of all, because I've lost my train of thought, about your interest in the work of Philip K. Dick and what he means to you, because he's a major theme on this show.
It means a lot to me. Philip K. Dick was one of the first just like authors that I really grokked, in a GROK kind of way. I read Do Androids Dream and the Electric Sheep. I was probably like 11 when I read that, right? And I missed everything. That was always a book that I could return to. I haven't returned to it for probably like the last 15 years. But that book covers so much of just like my general headspace. I mean, you read Valis, then you start understanding Gnosticism, right? And Philip K. Dick as the contemporary modern Gnostic of note. Fascinating individual who, what is it? The divine first appears in this trash stratum. Well, my ideas of divinity coming from books like Radio Free Alberuth and Valis and Transmutations of Timothy Archer, right? Or Transmigration of Timothy
Transmigration,
Archer. Yeah. Like, these are top paperbacks, right? But they're feeding my head with all sorts of esoteric ideas and understanding. So, yeah, Philip K. Dick means quite the world to me.
Yeah, and an interesting, maybe this is a synchronicity. I'm working on a book chapter that touches on Philip K. Dick's interest in the Rosicrucians. And
let's not get into that part, though. That's kind of secret divine knowledge.
Oh, well, then that's gonna have to stay behind the scene, behind the curtain. Stay tuned, and also stay tuned for when I first visited this museum. It's funny; it's been 5 years, and this speaks to my practice as a what do you call it, esoteric studies content creator. Is that what I do? It's been more than a year since I've recorded an esoteric beat recording. 5 years ago, was 2017? 5 years ago or 6? I bought off of Stephen a box set of the alchemy cards by Raymond Buckland. And I still haven't opened them because I keep telling myself I'm going to record for the show an unboxing video. Can you say anything about that alchemy card set to sort of whet my viewers' appetite?
It's really beautiful, and Ray, what he was doing was he was working on the tarot for some things that he wasn't really finding answers for, and he's like, "Well, I got deeper into my own subconscious, and I mean, classically, how do you dive into your subconscious? Well, alchemy symbolism. So he developed a deck of cards that is based on alchemy symbols. That's really all I know about it. Um, but we did show some of the original prints on exhibit here
Oh, how
before
cool.
the Protection Magic exhibit opens.
And it's going back to that concept of magical semiotics, right? Like, this was his effort to sort of like translate a sort of like alchemical alphabet out of the correspondences of the tarot and to create another kind of divination tool for understanding the the movements of symbols in the magical universe, right?
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us about any like recent acquisitions that are might be a good story?
Let's see here. I mean, there's just so many of them. I prefer to tell my stories face to face with people here. I got some really interesting, weird stuff though. Um, Let me think here. We just went through Pride Month, so I love telling the story about Leo Martello. I love telling these stories all the time.
Get out of
If
the way.
you're ever heard of somebody named Leo Martello, true legend in the witchcraft, we have his cursing altar here. It's the real deal. It's really heavy. I'm not going to tell you what's inside of it, but it's got a really incredible reveal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, come visit the museum. Oh, where am I? Come visit the museum.
Yeah, the thing I love about the museum is I get so many different interesting people that come through here. And we have Teddy here today. It's been fantastic. Daniel Harms was here earlier today, the great kind of grimoire
Just
magic.
today?
Yeah, just
I'm sorry I missed him. I
two
know
to-
him online. I bought a book off him.
yeah, like two tours before yours. Um, but he comes in here a lot just on his way passing through the area. And we had, let's see, the two people that own a great shop in Erie, Pennsylvania came this morning. Cauldron and Thorn, if you're ever in Erie, Pennsylvania, I suggest that you check that place out. So it's nice having like a cool hub, a nexus. People can come to like, share their magical ideas with us.
So, another question that occurred to me earlier that I'm circling back to. It's sort of astonishing that you were able to keep this small business going through the pandemic. And, you mentioned the lean winter months when, it's hard to get visitors. But at the same time, I mean, this is a place that, people who are in our line of study should be interested in passing through. And you do get to meet a lot of cool people
Yeah.
through the place. Can you tell us about how it is that you have survived?
I can't do anything else. You know, I can't fill out TPS reports for somebody else anymore. I have a hard enough time doing them for myself, so I can't do them for anyone else. So you get your back against the wall, right? And you're like, well, I got to figure out a way to make this work. And the thing is we have a thing that people get a lot of joy when they're here and they're experiencing with us. So I think that's really it. And these are bleak, harsh times that people are going through these days. And having a place where people can just kind of relax for an hour, chill with the mystics, look at the mystic things, think about their own like sacred paths. I mean, it would be weird if we didn't survive right now, honestly.
So, what advice would you have for somebody who has an interest in this material? Maybe consumes this kind of content, would like to produce, their own, maybe start their own museum of, whatever kind of artifacts they might have collected, or otherwise get involved in kind of the world of the mystics. Like, what's your advice for people if they want to get out of the rat race and into the museum?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're really lucky that our museum's founded on like one of the great esoteric collections of all time, right? Like Ray Buckland's collection. So I guess if you want to do that, start picking things up, you know, and just go for it.
You got to
Right.
write that letter.
Yeah.
You know, you got to write like we were talking about Mondo 2000, and the way that I got involved with the Mondo 2000 history project was that Are You Serious? Just put out on Facebook. You know, I got paint in my hands. I need somebody to help out with my archives, right? And I just sent an email and said, hey, you know, I'd be happy to volunteer, and you know, now I've got those archives in my shed. Um, and you know, you had a great line about, if you wouldn't mind sharing, about what it was like reading Mondo 2000. That's a subject I'll be talking about a lot on the show. Tell me about what it was like reading the magazine Mondo 2000 as a a young man in the 90s.
Well, I can't even remember what I said. I was riffing, but you know, listening to Psychic TV, reading Mondo 2000. Maybe I had a lava lamp over there, just feeling like I was part of something.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, and the way that
I mean, Technosis had just come out, right?
right? Yeah, yeah, and yeah, we talked
And
about.
if Eric Davis, you watch this video, I just gotta say that it was a my imitation of you was what you would have sounded like talking about Rick Griffin.
Rick Griffin, yeah.
The great artist, and just in your love of California and California ideas and mysticism. So it was a very gentle exploration of what Eric Davis is all about.
We are all huge fans.
It's all rock star here.
Yeah. Oh man, what a rock star. So speaking of rock stars, I remember the first time I was here, there was somebody here who was like a filmmaker who was like checking out the museum, and you guys got started talking about Rob Zombie, who's been a visitor.
Oh yeah. Rob Zombie never came to this museum. He came to our Christmas Story House museum.
Oh.
I was trying to get him to come to the Witch Museum. He was like, I gotta get sound check, man. Maybe next time. So Rob, if you watch this, come see the museum. I think it'll be fun.
Right.
Burn with the witches, right? Is that how the song goes?
Yeah, dig through the ditches and
burn
through the witches. There's just like
whatever.
It's like that bit in the Hermetic Corpus, where they say there's all these bands of demons, and with each sphere of the cosmos, you got to pass through all these bands of demons on your ascent.
Seems like so much. Who's keeping count? Who keeps track of all this?
But here we are, just like weaving in quotations from Burroughs and everybody in our discourse and our way of having conversation. I appreciate that you keep me on my toes with my academic pretensions, because this is something that on this show, I'm kind of trying to escape. And one of the things that I appreciate about this museum is that it's not just a kind of fossilized curation, right? But you really do have an appreciation that you're part of this living tradition, and sometimes, as the divine manifests at the trash stratum, sometimes that, that tradition is in a magazine that is like trying to sell smart drugs and, putting the readers on with conspiracy theory. And, nevertheless, you're listening to Psychic TV and feeling like you're a part of something.
Checking out Fate magazine.
There we go.
And, like the Reader's Digest for the Mystic set. It's, you get highbrow, you get lowbrow, and somewhere in between you get me, I guess.
Oh, so I want to ask you about, I didn't know this about Stephen. Can I tilt this and show off your Kabbalah? So one of the things that I appreciated when I visited the museum a while back was that he has this cool, I'm trying to point to it, here we go, Kabbalah board game, which...
We have one out of the box right over here.
Oh, cool, and so you can see it. This is what it looks like out of the box. Now, I did not know this about my old pal, but you apparently coded a Flash version of the game.
Yeah.
And, if you read my Twitter feed, I'm often involved with discussions about the ephemerality of video games. And, I'm interested, I got to see Chelsea Manning talk at the Internet Archive, right? And I
Oh, cool.
hang out with Are You Serious? And I'm really interested in these what do you call it, like. There's a sort of justice that has to deal with the disappearing of cultural material, right? And so, poor Stephen coded a version of the Kabbalah board game in Flash.
Yes.
And you were telling me a synchronicity where somebody who you were corresponding with, it turned out you knew each other from 20 years ago because he linked to your game on his website or something like that.
Gene Orlando from the museumoftalkingboards.com, which is a great resource if you have an interest in tarot, or not tarot, if you have an interest to research
in talking boards?
In talking boards. Thank you, Ted. Sorry, it's been a long day. Start at 8 o'clock at the dentist. So, he's got this thing, and he was here, and we got to talking, and within a few minutes, we realized we'd known each other for 20 years because he used to link to my Flash Kabbalah.
But that game is no longer in existence because Flash is not a thing that works anymore.
Yeah.
And the people who made Flash were not in the business of preserving all of that cultural heritage in the form of all these games.
Lost like tears in the rain.
If we, that was a quote from Blade Runner, the nice young teachers who we were talking to. Had never heard of Blade Runner or Philip K. Dick.
Never even heard of Blade Runner.
Yeah, never even heard of Blade Runner. You ask somebody, do you know who Philip K. Dick was?
Think about it. It's not their generation.
No, it's not. That's why one of my other YouTube personalities has the word graybeard in it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely starting to feel old, and like my interest in this is like carrying a torch. Like keeping the torch of initiation lit, really, because it's this stuff was esoteric to begin with, and people forget about movies as famous as Blade Runner. So if there's any enterprising young coders who are looking for a project, wouldn't it be fun to have an implementation of the Kabbalah board game, if that's not something anybody else has done by now? Well, so I want my readers to hear the story of how you and I got to know each other, right? We were following each other on Twitter, and you had a great way of explaining what your interest was in my posts, or what you remember I was doing there. So can you just give me your memory of the origin story of how we got to know one another?
I remember one time you got really mad at me about something. I don't know if we ever talked about that.
Oh, jeez.
I really, really upset. But, I don't know. It's been a long time. It's been like 10 years.
I was posting about Pico della Mirandola, right?
Yeah, but for some reason I thought you were a cop in, like, North Carolina. Which, no offense to the police or whatever, Ted's not a cop. I don't know why I thought so, but in my head he was this, like, weird mystic police officer in North Carolina, maybe, or maybe like West Virginia or something, that was obsessed with Pico.
That's fantastic.
Do you have any idea why this
I
was
have
the
no
thing
idea.
in my head?
I mean, it's funny because I've become more vocal about my, interest in stuff like police abolition and stuff lately. But, back then, man, I was in a terrible place, and I was definitely, mad that people are wrong on the internet a lot. And, you said some terrible things to people I love that I shouldn't have said because I was angry about some disagreement. Oh, it's a hazard of being online.
I remember what it was.
I have no memory of this, by the way. I have no idea.
I mentioned the mythicist theory.
Oh, right, yeah,
Yeah, you weren't into that.
Gosh, I don't remember being like, and I apologize if I was a dick, but wow, yeah, I guess maybe I was just...
I think you probably thought I was being a troll.
Yeah, and I was like taking it personal or something. I probably didn't know, maybe I didn't recognize your handle, or maybe...
Or maybe you did, and you were just like, why is Steven being a troll?
Yeah, and, luckily I've quit smoking weed, so I'm not, as paranoid as I used to be, but, man, yeah.
That's the thing about that stuff. I never really jived with it, because it always...
makes you anxious.
Yeah, I was like, why is that guy over there not looking at me and not paying attention to me. Why is he thinking about me?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and there for the grace of the great spirit of the universe go on. What was I going to say about that? It's definitely a danger of being extremely online that you can get like caught up in these you know these culture wars, right? These disagreements, and so that speaks to something else that being a witchcraft curator in Ohio, right? I think that you probably run into a few people who have some like weird ideas about what witches mean in a conservative kind of area.
That's their problem. You know, I people have said some weird things to me. Heard you guys curdle milk there. I wouldn't even know how to start.
I heard you guys curdle milk, and this is like he really thinks that you're doing some kind of hex to like curdle milk.
I don't know, or maybe he thinks that I don't. Maybe he thinks I keep milk in the fridge, and sometimes I don't close the door all the way. I don't know. It's just weird. People have weird ideas about witches.
Yeah, and I mean it's like I almost it's like I want to appreciate this as something kind of beautiful because it's just like the way that these superstitions just kind of like bounce around in the heads of people and like how do you account for it, how do you study it, how do you like contain it or even like adequately bear witness to this stuff.
Milk curdler.
And that's probably I guess one of the less well advertised kind of roles of your function as a museum curator, is not only to like put the stuff out there for people to look at, but then kind of absorb the like reactions that people have, as they look at this stuff. So I mean, as an esoteric researcher, I'd be
Mercer, right here.
Mercer and the PKD religion, and that's androids, right? Let's do androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Good reference. In my PKD tarot, I wanted to have the video game controller from Mercer, the Mercer religion. So if you check out my PKD tarot, there is a Mercer related card. Gosh, where was it? What were we talking about when we brought up that?
You were asking me about people's reactions.
Oh yeah, so like I'd love to hear. I mean, do you have people who are coming here? And we talked about how curation is a magical practice in a magical universe. Do you have people who are coming here and like just sort of like in religious awe or having some kind of a magical interaction? Like, do people ask if they can come hang out and like use the wand in a ritual that was owned by Aleister Crowley or
not really, but I mean people come in and you can tell that they realize that they're walking into some sacred space, and we like to have fun here. We like to have fun a lot, but you can tell that people come in here and just a little moments of touching the divine, It's always really powerful when I notice it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see, and when I think of this place as a resource for esoteric researchers, really, like what most interests me about this place is how it's a resource not only for participating in the information, magicians move in this world of information, right? But like to participate in the numinous aspects of of this stuff. It's like, I mean, you're not just visiting the staff owned by Oberon Zell, but you're visiting the kind of like astral presence of this item.
Yeah.
So you talk a bit, and I hope I'm not revealing too much about your spiel, which I'm gonna keep spoiler free as much as possible. Certain items you have that might have a reputation, let's say, for being used in dark magic, hexes, curses, that kind of thing. And you do talk about how you might feel protected because of the influence of your founder Bucky.
Yeah.
So like and I don't want to ask you to say anything that you don't want to talk about necessarily, but do you want to speak about the sort of spookiness of the items here and how that how that has an influence? Like, I mean, I can see how somebody might be like, scared to own some of this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, we got some heavy things here. I mean, that's Martello's cursing altar there. That wasn't used for like sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. That was used for getting people. Um,
Like, can you say anything about the shape of the candles here?
I mean, we got some figure candles there. So he's imposing will on people. People, not good people though. So we have that. We have poppets. We have good vibe poppets, and we also have bad vibe poppets. One of my great reveals is one of the great bad vibe poppets of all time that we have on display there. But then we also have things like antique mandrake roots that were used by the local healer, the person that you go to because you needed help. So, you got that balance. You got to think about, like, witchery. To me, I like to think about witchery as, like, in the role of the healers, right? But a lot of times, a lot of witchcraft is protection magic. A lot of times you're protecting yourself from the vipers, and not the animal vipers, but the viper people that are around you. So,
It's interesting how, esotericism itself, the name, or the concept of a sacred space has to do with like protecting that information. Like curation is not just about recording. It's not just about recording that information, but and like you were saying about the Leg Lamp Hotel, where you used to work, that you were able to take their museum and make it nice.
Yeah.
Right, and that helps to preserve this material, right? It's not just about indexing it and archiving it and understanding it or mapping it out.
Yeah.
But it's about the preservation of that cultural heritage. So I want to ask you, like, how our viewers might get involved in the preservation of cultural heritage, and what are some ways that that people are doing this work? Like, what are you seeing out there with the people that you interact with?
Of course, you have the occult book collectors, which are always awesome, interesting people. So that's an important part of the occult history, is the idea of the book, right? The grimoire. So I always love it when the book collectors come in here and tell me about their occult book collections. I don't know, if you have a coven, keep an eye on your pentacles, keep an eye on your aphimes. Don't get rid of stuff in your yard sale. Keep it for yourself, and remember that these are sacred objects.
Yeah, even if you were like 13 and like I don't know, like a piece of lipstick became your magic wand or something. It could be like something that just has significance to you, but it doesn't seem like a museum piece, but really, there might be some important gem of cultural just reality preserved in that, and your memory of that, and your relationship with it, something that you could impart to others and communicate, and that might have value in keeping this tradition alive.
Yeah. I probably my first occult artifact was a copy of the Necronomicon.
Oh.
The Simon Necronomicon, the one that you could buy at Walden Books, and on the edge of the pages, there was a guy I knew, Brian. His name was on this. I got it off the shelves at the thrift store. I saw it, and I was like, why is Brian blanked? Why is his Necronomicon here at Unique Thrift? So I called up my friend Matthew, and I was like, hey, man, you're tight with Brian. Why? And he's like, oh, you didn't hear? He went off the deep end, and he's in a mental institution right now, and his mom got rid of all his things.
Oh.
And of course, this Simon Necronomicon does have a certain reputation about it. So I've held on to that ever since. And that was my first real thing of my own that I collected, where I was like, this has got something going on
You want to say anything more about how you became interested in this sort of material in the first place? You mentioned reading PKD at age 11 and Mondo 2000 as a young man. What was your first encounter with the occult?
My first encounter with the cult, Scholastic Book Club,
Oh,
cryptozoology, that sort of thing. Obsessed with David Bowie since I was about 15. Maybe actually I was obsessed with Bowie when I was like, when did Let's Dance come out? 83. So since I was about 11, my sister got me Heroes for Christmas. I think Christmas right before I was 14. And of course, Bowie was obsessed with Aleister Crowley, so I would read these bios on Bowie, and they talk about obsessed with Crowley. So of course, I became obsessed with Crowley, and I discovered Kenneth Grant. And I got real obsessed with Kenneth Grant, and it just kind of had a snowballing effect. I loved Doom Patrol, the comic book, the Grant Morrison comic. Of course, The Invisibles came out, and I was just like, yeah, this is my jam right here. So it was a lot of the pop culture influences that came through me. And I mean, anybody here remember trying to figure out how to do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, like back before like YouTube videos and stuff, where you got the book and you're like, I'm supposed to do this right now? What's going on?
I remember when my college girlfriend's roommate moved out, they had an empty room in their apartment for a few days, and I dragged my Golden Dawn brick in there, and I was like, trying to turn that room into a temple and visualize everything.
Yeah. You're walking around with a bunch of flaming pentacles all around you.
Yeah, you gotta just like light it up on the astral, man.
That's right. Yeah. So as a young person, I was obsessed with lighting it up on the astral, man.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd said it myself. So, it's late. I've been on the road, and we're both pretty zapped. So let me just ask you, is there anything you want to tell us about what cool stuff you can buy at the museum? I remember you did once get mad at me on the internet when I described this place as the best little occult bookstore in Cleveland, because
it's the best occult bookstore in Cleveland.
I should not have qualified it with that little, and I'm going to acknowledge that I was in the wrong there.
The quality of the books that I sell in there, I mean,
there's some really cool stuff. Like especially if you're like interested in Aleister Crowley books. I mean, he has stuff that sells for $75, and you're getting a steal.
I got a great Crowley collection. I've got a great just like straight up witchcraft collection. I got a straight up like really good solid Wicca. I got really good like 70s occult paperbacks. I've got herbalism. I have all sorts of like Eastern studies. I have all sorts of books on like just weird psychology. Numerology, tarot. I've got the book for you.
And you've got posters.
Yeah, I got some cool weird posters. I've got some. Let's see. Got the herbs.
What's the artist that made the poster that I bought off you, the Aleister Crowley poster that was sort of like the Baphomet picture and a bunch of his iconography?
Madame Talbot.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Madame Talbot. Thick as thieves, the two of us. Good stuff. I also have posters designed by local artists for us. My 5-year Buckland poster is extraordinarily awesome. People love it. And yeah, I've got a cute little shop. You can buy a cool witchcraft t-shirt there. Buckland Museum of Witchcraft glows in the dark.
Anything else come up that you want to share with viewers interested in the esoteric beat before we go?
I don't know, just keep exploring the things that you're exploring. You have an interest in something, follow the rabbit holes, see where you go. I mean, keep practicing the tarot. It'll come to you someday. You'll get that spark.
It will. It might take a while. It took me quite some time to bury the hatchet with people I got mad at on the internet.
Just keep practicing the tarot, and it'll all unfold for you.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and that'll about do it.